Hey guys, in this next one, what I want to do is I want to add a monster. Okay, we're going to create kind of a monster class. We're going to create this kind of monster object, something that we can, at least in this video, we're going to go over how it's something that we can kind of shoot and get rid of. Later on, we're going to add a health system and all this to the player so that he can actually do damage to us and do some different interactions. But I just want to start off with something really simple that we can just kind of place in our scene, some sort of obstacle that we can shoot to destroy. And on top of that, I don't want it to be something that if we just shoot it one time it'll be destroyed. We want to create something where it'll create almost a health system to where we can do damage to the object and then have it disappear. So in order to do this, I'm just going to go ahead and create a new object. Just give us a cube. Alright, 0, 0, and 0. Alright, so this is going to be Mr. Monster, this cube up top. So let's change it to, let's call this one static monster. Why? Because he's not going anywhere. He's going to be static. Alright, so scale Y, set 2, make him about the same size as our player. Kind of move him over a little bit. Alright, now let's add a little something real quick. Let's create a material real fast. The main color of, let's go with something kind of orangey, right? There we go, kind of a brown orange looking thing. And then we'll just drag that to our monster. So now we can tell what he is. Alright, so that's our static monster. So in order to make this guy kind of work, what we're going to need to do is give him a kind of a nice little system. So let's go ahead and add an FSM. Okay, and what we need to do is our gun, our little balls that we shoot out, these little bullets, they have rigid bodies, they have colliders. So what we need to have happen is when our monster is hit by one of these bullets, he needs to take damage. So to start this off, we need to go to Action Browser, and we need to go to Physics, go to where it says Collision Event, because that's what's going to happen, is we're going to have a collision event. And when the collision event happens and we're hit by something, we want it to send out an event. So the event will be hit. Okay, and we go ahead and add a state, number 2. Go to add transition, hit. We can hook these up already. And so send event hit. Okay, this is great, but the main problem is going to be right now, the way this is set up is when it's hit by anything, what's going to end up happening is that it'll destroy it. It'll destroy our monster. We don't necessarily want that to happen. We need some sort of way of screening this, and the way that we can use this screening this is through tagging. It's kind of like layers and stuff like that built into Unity. So what we need to do is we need to go to our bullet, this guy right here, this prefab that's in our asset list. Alright, and we need to tag it. So in this case, I've already created a tag for mine called player bullet, but if you have not, what you would do is go down this little list here to where it says add tag, and in this case I have an element 0 player bullet, an element 1 monster, and element 2. I can add, something right here. It doesn't really matter. But if you don't have this, go ahead and add where element 0 is, your player bullet, okay, and that will create a new tag for that object. Okay, so tag, bring it down to that player bullet, select that so that it's tagged under the heading player bullet. So now when we go back to Playmaker, we take our collision event and our collide tag where it says untagged, we set this to player bullet. When we do this, it's basically going to say, okay, I've had a collision, I'm going to check and see what that collision is. Oh, that collision was from a player bullet. Okay, then I need to do something. Alright, so in this case it's going to need to be take damage. Alright, so in order to make this all work, here's a little video display here, a little image of what we're going to be creating, our health system. Alright, first thing I want to do is check and see if the bullet hit me. That's what we've been working on so far. Alright, the next thing that we need to have happen is it needs to subtract damage from the monster's health. Alright, and along with that it needs to check and see if I have any health left. Okay, once it makes this decision of whether it has any health left or not, it either needs to go back to see if another bullet has hit me, or it needs to destroy the object. Okay, either way, it's kind of a nice little branching situation here. So this is going to be a loop. So every time it gets hit, It's going to check and subtract, check and subtract, check and subtract up until there's no health left. Then it's going to destroy the object. All right. So to set this process up, so this is going to be state 1 is going to be, let's just call it hit, or let's say check for hit. Okay. The second one here is going to be let's call this one health. Right. And what we need to have happen is once it's hit, all right, we need to go into our action browser and we need to perform some math. All right, so here's our math, and we need to do a math float subtract. All right, now before we can do a float subtract, we need to have a variable. So what we need to do is go into our variable and just create a variable called health, or in this case, let's call it monster health. Right. So here's our monster health variable. We need to give it a value because it's already set to 0. He's already dead, and there's no reason for him to exist. So let's say 10. 10's a good even number. We'll give it a nice float value of 10, and then we can come back to our health script, change that to monster health, and then we want to subtract not 0. We want to subtract 1. Okay, let's say, so every time he's hit, it subtracts 1. So he's got basically 10 hit points. If we leave that at 0, he's basically invincible. No, it takes, you know, whatever damage. You can change this to a variable later. So if we later have different weapon types and different kinds of guns and damages and all that kind of stuff, you can add that into this variable here and have that update. Okay, so check for hit. Once it hits, you want it to subtract, and then we need to have a little switch. Okay, and what that needs to be is it needs to be some sort of it's called a float compare. And what we want to have happen is we want to compare the current value of the monster health against basically another number. In this case, it's going to be 0, right? So once it hits 0, we want it to kill the monster. All right. So what we need to do then is go to what's called logic. Under logic, we have, where are you? Float compare. There we go. So we want to add that to the state. All right. So our float 1 is definitely going to have to be our monster health. Okay. So that's currently at 10. Our float 2 is going to be what it's comparing against is 0. I'll leave the tolerance at 0 because we want it to be the exact same number. And what we need to do is make sure that when it's equal to 0 or less than 0, then what's going to have to, when it's equal to it, we need to have it do something, and when it's less than, we have it do something. Greater than, we're not going to worry about. All right. So, but we need to have a new event created so that it does something. So let's go to event, and let's just call this one die. All right, because we're going to kill it. Add a state and call this one, let's take, you know, destroy object. So let's go to our action browser, go to game object, and go to destroy self. Blink. All right, self-destruct button. So add a transition, die, and destroy self. Okay. So now what we want to have happen is here's our float of our variable with our health. We want to subtract the 1 from it. Here's our float compare. We want to compare it 0 when it's 0 or greater than. So if it's equal, we want it to die. When it's less than, we want it definitely to be dead with negative hit points. And with greater than, none, nothing. We're fine. We don't need to have anything happen there. Other than when it's greater than, we needed to go back to the check for hit. Okay. So with this one, let's go ahead and add a finish transition. Should work. And over here. So it should cycle through these and then come back to hit. When that doesn't happen, it's going to go and destroy itself. So let's see how this functions. All right. So here's our player. We're shooting our balls at our guy, and if you look here, you'll see the float variable for monster health is all the way down to 4 now. So if I hit him again, all right, 3, 2, 1, 0. Ba-doom boom, dead monster. All right. So let's go and do that one more time. All right, dead monster. Working pretty well. All right, so one thing we want to do while we still have this static monster, we have this whole health system kind of set up, is we should go ahead and save this as a template. So go ahead, save template, and save that as our monster health template. All right, so that's how we're going to basically set up our basic monsters. give them all a health system. They can all have their own health and hit points and all that. This is the simplest one. It's just going to be a static monster. Maybe it's a barrel, blockade, whatever, just something you're going to destroy. So now we have, lots of stuff we can do now with our player. We can jump, we can move, we have a character, the camera moving along with it. We got moving platforms, and now we have static monsters to get in our way.